Hi everyone, Ross John Fortuny of GovCIO Media and Research here, coming to you from TechNet Cyber 2025 in Baltimore. Joining me now is Brigadier General Michael Cornell, Vice Director of DISA J6. Thanks so much for being here with me.
Thank you for having me again, Ross. Good to see you.
So I saw you talking on the panel this morning, and you're talking about AI and sensors and all those kind of things. So how are the automated alerts and responses helping DISA maintain resilience and make it easier for users using it?
So I'm really proud of the work that our team has done since I arrived in the seat 3 years ago. We've done an enormous amount of modernization to use a variety of different monitoring tools that allow us to see in several of our networks a complete end-to-end picture. So from the end point where the user interfaces to the back-end infrastructure, we have both active real-time monitoring that will alert us to issues and point us to where we might be experiencing trouble or could experience trouble. But we also use what we call synthetic traffic, which is where we are pushing traffic that we create through the network, and then we're able to monitor if it's causing latency or bottlenecked, and that helps drive, in terms of a user experience, improved user experience. It drives faster incident resolution. It also informs our decision making and our acquisitions and budget strategy for where we might want to modernize. So we've had, for example, some switches and routers where we realized we needed to increase the capacity of those devices in order to keep pace with the increased network traffic that we see. So we're looking to continue to build on that with some of the AI and data-driven tool sets that we talked about on the panel this morning.
Well, you talked about latency, so I want to sort of quote back to you what you talked about this part of one of the things you talked about this morning about how speed and interoperability are really key here. How is AI ML contributing to that speed, and then the other key being interoperability? How are those things getting bolstered by AI ML emerging technology?
Yeah, so I didn't coin this term. You'll hear a lot of senior leaders, including our DISA director, Lieutenant General Stanton, say this, which is, slow is smooth and smooth is fast, right? And so in this business, we want to provide uninterrupted service, reliable service. And when there is an incident, we want to resolve it quickly, right? Because we want to make sure that whether it's a warfighter at the battle edge or a senior leader back at the Pentagon, that they are able to execute the mission and that they are not impeded from doing so by a network outage or degradation. But when you rush those break fix actions, you end up taking more time and effort to resolve them and creating a bigger mission impact than you would if you did it deliberately from the start. And so what AI ML allows us to do is it allows us to identify problems sooner with more accuracy and cut down the time it takes us to diagnose a problem, right? So we're still proceeding deliberately so that we don't cause unintended second and third order effects that would exacerbate the outage or degradation, but we want to be able to resolve quickly, and that's what those tools ultimately help us to do. On the interoperability piece, I attend a regular global sync hosted by the Joint Staff J6 with all the combatant commander J6s, and interoperability is going to be the key to the next fight, no matter where it is around the world, right? Our joint force is more integrated than ever before, and our air, land, sea, space, and cyber forces need to be interoperable in executing those operations. And so, again, AI and ML helps those disparate warfighting applications and networks work on that interoperable basis.
You talked about data tagging and how there's some issues about data tagging throughout DoD and generally. I imagine there are some with allies and partners as well. How do you get over that hump?
Yeah, so as I joked this morning on the panel, I am not a data scientist or a subject matter expert in this regard at all. But as I prepare to wrap up 33 years in uniform, I have heard repeatedly over the years the need for the Department of Defense, the federal government, and frankly, private industry all face the same issue, which is there's a need to make sure that data is tagged consistently. Because if I tag data differently than you do, when we try to talk to each other, there's going to be a disconnect. And I think, as my colleague, Mr. Raj Shah, said this morning, DISA is really leading the way in working with the services and the combatant commands to do that. I think, as he said, there's still work to be done with respect to certain subsets of that problem set, but it's key, right? As we move to this data-driven world, in this world of AI and ML, those tools are only as good as the data that goes into them. And so I think you'll, despite my joking this morning that this has been a discussion for, the last third of my career, I have to give credit to DISA and the rest of the Department of Defense. I think there's been some real headway made in doing that. All of our senior leadership, whether it's the DoD CIO, the DISA director, the combatant commanders, and their J6s, they all recognize this problem and they're all working to get after it. But we live in a very data-heavy environment, right? And so there is not a wave of the hand to fix that, easily. So I think it's a critical piece of what we're doing. And again, I'm proud of the work that DIS is doing to get ahead of that.
Yeah, I know it's certainly an evolving situation, sort of an evolving environment. That's something that we always talk about whenever I'm talking to senior leadership and people in these offices. Is something on Monday is not the same on Wednesday, so you really have to build the plane while you're flying it.
Absolutely.
You mentioned your decades in uniform. When you look back, and you'll be retiring, I believe, at the end of the month. Is that right?
Correct.
End of May. I'm sorry. What are you most proud of? What are you most proud of? Number one, and number two, like what big trends have you seen, especially in DISA in the most recent part of your career?
I think the thing I'm most proud of is I've had really life-changing opportunities and privileges to serve with, some of the finest Americans that I've ever met. I have spent most of my military career, in operations, both overseas or working here to either defend the homeland or participate in remote operations where there are crews of military personnel here in the States quietly working overnight to target and defeat our enemies overseas. And so some of my proudest moments are being on operations floors with those, fellow patriots executing the mission. I joke with some of my friends that when I came into the Air Force, there was no SIPRNet, right? So there wasn't even email, really. When I first came in, we were still using typewriters, and we were using these message handling systems that were, very clunky and produced hard copy message traffic that a human would have to go sort through. And so as I look back on all that, and now, the information that's available, on a device in our pocket is really, when you take a moment to look back at that perspective, is just really impressive. And so I really think we're on the cusp of the next event horizon in that respect, right? I think with quantum and the AI ML revolution that is occurring across not only the military but industry, I think we're really, for folks who are going to continue the mission, pick up the colors and continue the fight, are really going to see, capabilities that are going to be exponentially, more effective and productive than what I saw when I, came in uniform, 33 years ago.
Yeah, it certainly is a tipping point that time. You've really seen the rise of this kind of technology. But I guess to that end, how I guess impressive is it now that this has got that change has happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people take this for granted. I certainly do. We all do, right? You have most of us have a device in our pocket where you can access all of the information known to man. You may use it to look at pictures of cats or your children or memes, but the truth is, we all have computing power that we carry around every day that is was undreamt of when I first entered the service, and certainly when my father and his generation served. It was the stuff of science fiction. And to your point, yeah, I think we're at a tipping point where that is only going to continue. I think that future generations will look back at this the way I look back at my time as a lieutenant, where, I was in the back of a Humvee in Korea pulling message traffic down over SIPRNet. And, the fact that it took 20 minutes to download one message was not only fast, but revolutionary at the time. And so I think, this next generation is going to look back at where we are today, I believe, in the same manner as we continue to leverage the technology that we've been talking about today.
Yeah, I was going to say, to that point, that's where the speed comes in. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.